The flashing red and blue lights in a rearview mirror have a way of shrinking the world down to fear and silence. On an empty mountain highway at nearly 2 a.m., that fear becomes something heavier, something that presses against the chest and makes every breath feel like evidence. Deputy Mark Callahan knew exactly what he was looking at as he stepped out of his cruiser. A lone woman in a black luxury sedan, parked neatly on the shoulder of Route 88, engine still running, rain mist gathering on the hood. To him, it looked like opportunity. Easy authority. Another routine stop that would end the way he always decided it would end. What he didn't know was that the woman behind the wheel was not random. And she was not alone in purpose. Her name was Dr. Elena Mercer, and the badge hidden beneath her tailored coat carried more weight than anything in that county. Elena had been driving for hours through the winding passes of Black Pines County, returning from a confidential oversight briefing in the state capital. At 41, she had built a career inside federal accountability systems, quiet investigations, sealed files, internal dismantling of corrupted institutions. Officially, she was a policy consultant for the Department of Justice. Unofficially, she led a covert review unit embedded inside state law enforcement systems. Tonight, she just wanted rest. Instead, she got Callahan. The cruiser appeared behind her without urgency at first, just a shadow tracking her for nearly a mile. Then the lights came on, slicing through the rain. Elena didn't panic. She had trained too many officers like him to be surprised by them. She signaled, pulled over smoothly, placed both hands on the steering wheel, and waited. Deputy Callahan approached with the confidence of a man who had never been meaningfully challenged. He was tall, broad-shouldered, his uniform slightly unkempt in the way that suggested habitual arrogance rather than fatigue. Complaints followed him through the department, excessive force allegations, informal settlements, cases quietly buried. He tapped the trunk of her car as he passed. Hard. Deliberate. A message more than a gesture. Then he arrived at her window, flashlight already raised. The beam hit her face immediately. License. Registration. Insurance, he said flatly. Elena blinked once against the light but kept her voice calm. Good evening, officer. May I ask the reason for the stop? Callahan leaned slightly closer, ignoring the question. I asked for your documents. I'll retrieve them, she replied evenly. They're in my bag on the passenger seat. Slow, he muttered. She complied without hesitation. As she handed over her documents, Callahan studied her more carefully than necessary. The expensive but understated clothing. The clean interior. The composure. Then came the shift in tone. This your vehicle? He asked, tapping her license photo. Yes. A faint smirk formed. Interesting. Don't usually see people like you driving something like this out here unless there's a story. It wasn't subtle. It wasn't meant to be. Elena met his gaze directly. What exactly do you mean by, people like me? A pause. Just long enough for him to decide he didn't need to answer. Instead, he stepped back slightly. Step out of the car. A second patrol unit had arrived during the stop. A younger officer, Ethan Brooks, stood near the rear of Callahan's cruiser, visibly uncertain. New, maybe. Still capable of doubt. Everything all right, sir? Ethan asked. Callahan didn't look at him. Just handling a non-compliant driver. Elena observed both of them quietly. She could end it immediately. One credential check. One phone call. The entire situation would collapse around Callahan in seconds. But she didn't. Not yet. Because her unit wasn't just investigating corruption anymore. They were mapping behavior. And Callahan was giving them everything they needed. She stepped out of the vehicle. Rain touched the pavement in thin sheets. The wind moved through the trees like distant static. Callahan immediately closed distance. Hands on the hood. "Am I under arrest?" she asked. "You're being detained for officer safety." A rough hand guided her forward. "Not necessary. Not professional. Intentional." Ethan shifted uncomfortably behind him. "Sir, she hasn't." "Stay out of it," Callahan snapped. Elena placed her hands on the hood without resistance. Callahan searched her with unnecessary force. Too rough. Too confident. The kind of search designed to remind, not to find. Nothing came up. Of course nothing came up. That wasn't the point anymore. Callahan's attention shifted to her car again. Inside, a small reinforced briefcase sat on the back seat. "What's that?" he demanded. "Legal documents," Elena said. "Open it." "No." That single word changed the air. Callahan leaned closer. "I can smell marijuana," he said suddenly. There was no odor. No basis. Just a bridge into authority abuse. Ethan froze. "Sir, I didn't." "Stand down," Callahan barked. He moved toward the vehicle. Elena watched him carefully. She still didn't stop him. Because she needed him to keep going. Inside her sleeve, a thin secured device rested against her wrist, encrypted, invisible, and connected to a field response grid already staged across the county. 2 subtle movements activated it. No sirens yet. No visible reaction. Just confirmation. 10 minutes passed. Then 15. Callahan grew impatient, rifling through her belongings, scattering documents across the seat, throwing her bag to the floor. Ethan looked increasingly uneasy. "Maybe we should just..." "Shut it," Callahan said again. Then came the shift in sound. Distant engines. Too many. Too coordinated. Ethan looked up first. "Sir, do you hear that?" Callahan frowned. "Dispatch, we got incoming backup." No response. Only static. Then the horizon lit up. Black tactical SUVs emerged over the ridge in synchronized formation. No local markings. No county insignia. State-level response units. They didn't slow down. They surrounded both cruisers in seconds. Doors opened in perfect coordination. Armed agents stepped out. On their vests. State Oversight Division, Internal Corruption Task Unit. Callahan went still. "That's not possible," he whispered. A man stepped forward, Agent Daniel Hargrove. Calm. Controlled. Focused entirely on Elena. "Director Mercer," he said. "We received your signal. Are you secure?" The words hit harder than the flashing lights. Ethan stepped back instinctively. "Director." Callahan's face drained. "No," he muttered. "No, that's not." Elena finally turned fully toward him. "No more stops tonight, Deputy," she said quietly. Hargrove moved without hesitation. "Disarm him." Callahan reached for his weapon. He never made it halfway. 3 red laser sights locked onto his chest instantly. "Don't," Hargrove said calmly. Callahan froze. For the first time all night, he looked uncertain. Ethan dropped to one knee immediately, hands raised. "I didn't do anything, I tried to stop him, I swear." Elena glanced at him. "Stay calm. Cooperate. You'll be fine." Callahan was forced onto the hood of his own cruiser. The same position he had used on her. Now reversed. As restraints clicked into place, Elena stepped closer. "You've got 14 formal complaints," she said quietly. 7 settlements. 3 internal warnings that never reached discipline. Callahan struggled. This is a setup. No, she replied. This is documentation finally being enforced. He laughed bitterly. You think this changes anything? I've got backing. Union protection. Command support. Elena looked at him with mild disappointment. Not anymore. Inside Callahan's vehicle, agents recovered recordings, reports, and flagged internal files. Patterns emerged quickly. This wasn't an isolated officer. It was a network. A protected culture of abuse operating under badge authority. And Callahan had been one of its most active participants. Elena watched quietly as the system she had spent years building finally did what it was designed to do. Not revenge. Containment. Correction. Removal. As the convoy prepared to leave, Ethan stood nearby, shaken but cooperative. I tried to tell him, he said quietly. I know, Elena replied. That matters. Callahan was loaded into transport. Still shouting. Still denying. Still believing authority would save him. It wouldn't. The doors closed. The sound of metal locking echoed through the night. By sunrise, the county would be under federal review. Internal files sealed. Command staff suspended. Investigations expanded. Deputy Mark Callahan would no longer be an officer. Just a defendant in a widening case that reached far beyond a single highway stop. And Elena Mercer? She would be already gone. Driving forward. Toward the next file. The next system. The next corruption waiting to be removed. Because justice, in her world, wasn't a moment. It was a process that never stopped.